not there?
No, we have not found Anmesh Sheth here.
Okay. Well, no problem. Let me take it.
Yes, wonderful.
It's okay.
And Martin, you're the founder and CEO of Entrepreneur Scan or Escan, and I'm super excited to hear about your tools and strategies.
Perfect. So everyone can see the screen?
Yes, we see the presenter view now, so you can probably swap displays.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Hold on a second, Martin. You should just swap displays on top of your screen.
Swap displays?
Yes, to the left, a little bit more left.
Like this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And I'm not sure if Dr. Hanadi is there, but I really want to thank her for inviting me to talk about actually the Escan, which is a product tool, but I just want to make it a little bit broader and talk about the entrepreneurial learning and entrepreneurial development. I want to take you in this 15-minute session into a journey on the entrepreneurial mindset. Because if we talk about the entrepreneur, everyone has this image in their mind instantly. Yet the question is every entrepreneur or business owner entrepreneurial? Probably not entrepreneurial equally, and maybe not so equally entrepreneurial as they should be. So I just want to dive in, because especially now in COVID, we see that, well, some are very entrepreneurial and find new ways. We talk about innovation, we talk about disruption, we talk about new business models and things like that. And that is actually what triggered me about 25 years ago, is if you look at the survival rates, talking about entrepreneurial, you see actually that in 5 years, it's about 50%, give or take. So 50%, give or take, that actually survive the business. And it has been for decades, actually. So something, one person in two entrepreneurs actually fails the business, or it's not going well, or they have to stop, or even worse, they get bankrupt. And if you look at the across the Atlantic Ocean, and we look at Europe, actually we see more or less the same happening, give or take again. And this is just a comparison with a couple of countries, but more or less 1 in 2 that start a business within 5 years have to stop their business. And also in Europe, as well as in the USA, you see that it is more or less the same every year. So that is actually quite interesting, because of course there are different economies, different cultures, but there's one thing that's actually the same, and that is the entrepreneur. So what about the entrepreneur? How can you see whether someone is entrepreneurial? How do you assess someone being entrepreneurial, yes or no? I would like you to show you a drawing by Peter van Straten. And actually, I would like to ask you, if you look at the guy, what do you think? How entrepreneurial is he? And I'm sure when I look at it, because he's working from the bank and he's together with his wife, I assume maybe it's his girlfriend, we don't know. But if you look at him, my feeling is he doesn't look very entrepreneurial. So maybe he did have a very bad idea, and he does not want to listen to what the bank says. And probably she says to him, like, of course you're not enterprising. I know that, you know that, but they don't know that. And that's exactly what took me 25 years ago to understand, how does people, in this case specifically the bank, how do they assess the entrepreneur? Because most of the time it's actually gut feeling. And it's also for business advisors, for chambers of commerce, all kinds of projects, incubators, is what about the entrepreneur? Because when we talk about the entrepreneur, we still have this person in our mind, like, okay, that is an entrepreneurial person. The entrepreneur is entrepreneur because that's why he starts his business. The question is that so? So what I want to do today with you is to talk about 3 things. First of all, what are the entrepreneurial competencies? Secondly, can entrepreneurship be developed? And if so, how? And thirdly, how do you strengthen the entrepreneurial ecosystem when talking about the entrepreneur. So those are the three things I would like to talk to you about. So actually, it started 25 years ago to actually just research how do institutions, people assess the entrepreneur. And actually, it led me to develop a tool because it wasn't there. That is the Escan. And the Escan actually gives instant insight into the entrepreneurial mindset. And what you see here is that on the left side, you have the power of the mindset. And on the right side of the spider chart, you see more or less the characteristics, the traits, which are more or less stable, whereas on the left side of the spider chart are more or less the most important capabilities. But yet they can increase and diminish over time, especially when stress is coming up, when things are changing, and especially now you see that a couple of those profiles actually diminish. And this is just one example. If we look at the right, you see the type of mindset, and together they actually form and show you instantly, directly, this is the entrepreneurial mindset of a person. So this is just one example of the million plus people that have done the Escan so far, which has been a part of my PhD thesis. I'm an entrepreneur first and foremost, but besides that, I'm also a scientist. And if you look at this profile, you see actually that it's a pioneer together with a manager, which is quite rare actually. It's not happening that often. And a pioneer is, of course, those who are very focused on innovation, on generating ideas, on solving the problems of tomorrow. But yet again, just thinking of the idea, like the one we saw by Peter Verstraeten, the sad-looking person, he could very well be very entrepreneurial. But maybe much more of an ideas person, but not in execution. But maybe his wife or whatever she was could form a great team. So you cannot judge a book by the cover. And for that, we created something to have not only looking at the business, but also looking at the business person, the person behind the business. And here you see actually it's a pioneer combined with a manager. The question is whether it's much more an intrapreneur because he's scoring low, need for achievement, need for autonomy, self-belief, and risk-taking. So maybe not so entrepreneurial after all, and maybe much more the innovator within a company. Yet this is something that we help business coaches to learn how to use this tool actually. So the question still is, how come 1 in 2 persons have to stop their business? How come not every entrepreneur is being or becoming successful? So some are really struggling, as we know. And one of the reasons is actually self-awareness. In our software, we ask people to rate themselves, to estimate how entrepreneurial they think they are on a scale from 0 to 100. It's just intuitively, because we want to make sure that they start listening, because people think they have or are entrepreneurial, but they're not so entrepreneurial. And when you look at what really is going on, so this is the average, instead of 67.2, they actually score 49.7. So there's a gap. That means that can have devastating consequences because they think they have competencies, but they're not there, or they're not the ones they think they have, but the things they need are not in place. So the question is what to do about that, but I will come back to that later. So when we take a little bit a step back and look at the entrepreneur within the ecosystem, in this case, an alternative model by Rauch and Fraser on the entrepreneurial success, is what you see here is, of course, the human capital of knowledge, skills, and ability. And I think passion should be a part of that, but nevertheless, also the broad personality traits, which are mostly used in research, are just the broad personality. And if you talk about the entrepreneur, it's much more focused, and therefore the Big Five or the MBTI or the DISC, which are known assessment instruments, are not as business focused as the Escan. So there's a distinct between the Escan and other things. And that is what is actually really measuring how well the innate achievement, risk-taking, and innovativeness is within the person. And if you look at the correlation with business creation or business success, you see actually that there is a significant correlation, although it's not that high yet. The researchers claim that within alpha studies this is quite high. The more important point I want to make here actually is the intermediate factor, which is the goals and strategies. So actually, what does the entrepreneur do? How does he make use of his entrepreneurial traits, or how does he form a team of people that actually can bring back the business success? So it's about the intermediate, and that has a much higher correlation actually than it has just looking at the traits. So it's a combination of a couple of things. Question is, these are the most entrepreneurial traits, as you see or show them in the Escan. The question is, can entrepreneurship be developed? Or is it something that we actually more or less have it in us? Some people say it's in your blood. Well, then we should take a blood test, but I think that is not necessary. But if you look at some other research that has been done, the question, nurture or nature, is entrepreneurship nurture or nature? Well, actually what they have done is looking at the children of adoptive parents and compared them with the children of biological parents. And although nature has a very tiny role, nurture has a far bigger part in entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship development. So it's much more about nurture, teaching, training, developing than it is about nature. So the most important entrepreneurial competence is the one we know, and yes, entrepreneurship can be developed. The question now I want to address is, how can it be developed? And for this, we have created the online platform for entrepreneurial learning. Here in the middle, you see that this is software where you can see the profile of the entrepreneur. It's responsive, so it works on tablet, mobile phone, and things like that. And on the laptop here, you see actually that this is more or less what we call the entrepreneurial learning, where people learn step by step together with the business coach to become more entrepreneurial, to take the necessary steps to not only gain the self-awareness, which is an important factor, but also to understand, okay, what are my strengths? How can I make use of them? What are my weaknesses and how I'm going to address them? So what I can do here now is just to take quite a step back. Let me see. I just want to share another screen with you. So here, as you can see, is we're now logged into the software. And this is someone who did the Escan. And of course, if there are more entrepreneurs, we can create a team analysis, which is different from the team analysis or the team sessions that you have with people working within a company. So this is about people who own a company working together. And here you can see the 360 feedback, where you actually can see that several people took the Escan about the entrepreneur. So you have a different perspective. And here you can see all the feedback, which is actually telling you, okay, how well do I score on the one hand about the mindset, on the other hand about the entrepreneur profile, and also an algorithm that tells you how well the self-awareness is. All actually instruments to talk about the person behind the business. So if I take you back to the presentation. So this is the software. It's just a way to show you. I think it's too much to show you in more detail because the question is, how well does entrepreneur coaching work based on our tools? And as I said, it is a tool. And with every tool, it is about how it is used by, in this case, entrepreneur coaches. And it works well online as offline. So, and it goes also very well with other business tools like Growth Wheel, Business Model Canvas, Confrontation Tool, the Smart Goals Wizard. So these are all things that actually are into play when talking with the entrepreneur, but this is all about the entrepreneur in or herself. So to conclude, how successful is the impact of such coaching? what we have done, we have several studies done together with the Chambers of Commerce and other universities. And this is just a aggregation of all the stuff that we've done. And here you see actually in a year program where the blue line, which is the second measure after a year, surpasses the red line. So actually you see that every competency is grown through coaching with our tools. And on the other hand, you see that it has been significant through the program. Those are in orange. So it's not only that people learn to understand what kind of entrepreneur they are, but also how can they become more successful. Yet not everyone has the goal to be successful or to grow their company. So that's an important remark here. And also it really helps to more inclusive entrepreneurship as reported by the OECD. So if we look 5 years back from now, so what they've done is doing a study to check whether those who started this program, whether they were alive after 5 years. As we have seen within the European Union or within USA, about 50%, give or take, are alive after 5 years, sorry. And with the program, it is 89% after 5 years. So only 11% had to stop. And yet again, what we need to make sure, because this is a binary, you either survive or not. Those who wanted to grow their business did grow their business, but not everyone wants to grow, because some people want to stay self-employed. The question is, how can you use the self-employed to work for those who want to grow? So that's part of the ecosystem that really could help to make sure that every person is being helped in the way they are best helped. So what do we have with all of this if we talk about the entrepreneurial ecosystem? A couple of things that I think are very important when you talk about the entrepreneurial ecosystem is the focus on entrepreneurship development. And I think you should start with the entrepreneur first. Talk about the person, because when you start immediately with the business, it's quite difficult to go back to the entrepreneur, as it seems. And of course, using a pre and post measurement to show growth and impact, as we have seen, of course, but also to give back to those who have participated in programs or in coaching sessions with the entrepreneur coach. I think that we have seen today and yesterday a lot of about entrepreneurship education, and I think you should start with entrepreneur and entrepreneurship development as soon as possible, as early as possible. How can you be the entrepreneurial leader of tomorrow? Furthermore, what we also see is that when talking about finance, actually assessing, looking at the entrepreneur. So how can you make sure that the entrepreneur talent is assessed within financing, or is actually a factor that is taken into account, especially with startups, because they don't have any track record. So, and we have some quite interesting experience with that in the Netherlands, not only with the Chambers of Commerce, but also with a large bank that actually really uses this kind of tool in a way to help people more, to get more out of themselves. So development is an important aspect of their lending. Professor Stam has done great work. We've seen a lot of sessions today as well about formal institution networks for entrepreneurs, so part of the ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And what is also very interesting is that most entrepreneurs are actually looking for the same people they are themselves, while actually they should look for diverse talent and diverse knowledge. So how can this help to make sure you have this complete team? But most, and actually the most important thing is that the entrepreneur coach is the spider in the web, because they know the ecosystem, they know the organization, institutions, the way it goes. And most entrepreneurs actually, even those who are established, often have trouble finding the tree within the forest. So entrepreneur coaches not only help in developing the entrepreneur, but also in making sure that the ecosystem is working for them as well. And well, with this, I would like to say thank you very much for listening. And if you have questions or you want to visit and take the test yourself, then that is possible on our website. But feel free to mail me and let's see how I can help you take that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anmesh. No, I'm sorry, Martin. So we have now we have Anmesh here, and from Sopact, and we are running a little bit late, but please go ahead and give a short version of your beautiful platform, Sopact, to.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hanadi, for inviting our journey. For those of you just start out, before we